My wife took a break to find herself, while secretly seeing another man, so I played along, gathered proof, then ended our marriage on my terms. I'm a 32-year-old male, and I met Ella, a 30-year-old female, when I was 27. We've been married for 3 years and together for 5 years in total. I'm a certified welder, earning $95,000 working on industrial construction projects. She's a receptionist at a mid-sized firm downtown, making about half of that. The house we live in is mine. I bought it 2 years before we got married with money from my inheritance, and it's titled solely in my name. We split household expenses roughly 70-30, since I make about double her salary. She contributes to groceries, utilities, and home improvements, but the mortgage has always been my responsibility. The first 2 years of marriage were filled with the usual adjustments. We figured out whose turn it was to do the dishes, argued about the thermostat, and planned vacations we couldn't quite afford yet. Ella wanted to go to Europe, while I wanted to pay down the mortgage faster. It was the standard newlywed adjustment period. The house is a 1950s ranch that I renovated myself. I pulled permits, did most of the electrical and plumbing work on weekends, added a workshop in the garage, refinished the hardwood floors, and updated the kitchen with granite countertops and stainless appliances. I invested about $40,000 and 2 years of sweat equity into it, and the current value is around $280,000 in a neighborhood that's been gentrifying rapidly. Things started to shift about 8 months ago when Ella reconnected with her college friend, Ashley. Ashley had moved back to town after a messy divorce, no kids, and was collecting $2,500 a month in alimony from some tech guy who apparently cheated. She was living in a trendy downtown loft, hitting bars every weekend, and posting Instagram stories about living her best life and not settling for less. My best friend, Stefan, immediately nicknamed her the Life Coach after meeting her once at a barbecue. Stefan has been my wingman since college. He's a software developer, brutally honest, with zero patience for drama and a dark sense of humor. He took one look at Ashley's designer handbag and fake eyelashes and called it immediately. Ashley was 28, bleached blonde, one of those women who thinks having an opinion about everything makes her interesting. She always smiled a little too long at me and laughed too hard at my jokes. I chalked it up to extroverted energy back then, and should have known better. She'd roll up to our house in her leased BMW, always dressed like she was going to a nightclub. She always had some new piece of relationship advice that sounded like it came from a daytime talk show. The woman was a walking red flag factory, divorced after 18 months of marriage, no job skills beyond spending someone else's money, and the kind of toxic positivity that made normal people want to jump off bridges. But she had Ella's ear. Suddenly, Ella started coming home with new ideas about relationships, how we were too comfortable, how marriage shouldn't feel like roommates, how successful couples challenge each other and keep the spark alive. All recycled garbage from whatever relationship podcast Ashley had discovered that week. The fight started small. Why didn't I plan more spontaneous dates? Why was I always working late? Why didn't I get jealous when other guys talked to her at parties? Classic manufactured drama, but I didn't recognize it yet. I was working on a major commercial project, a 12-story office building downtown that was 3 months behind schedule and $200,000 over budget. It was the kind of job that makes or breaks careers in my field. I was putting in 60-hour weeks, sometimes working Saturdays, trying to keep the project from becoming a complete disaster. But according to Ashley's relationship philosophy, my commitment to keeping us financially stable was actually proof that I didn't care about our marriage. You can't make this stuff up. By December, we were fighting twice a week, always following the same pattern. She'd pick something minor, escalate it into a character assassination, and then act confused when I didn't engage with the hysteria. I'd try to problem solve. She'd accuse me of being emotionally unavailable. The Christmas fight was about the tree. I had worked a 12-hour day dealing with structural engineers and city inspectors. I came home exhausted, and she was upset that I didn't seem excited enough about the tree she bought. It wasn't that I didn't like it, but I just didn't seem excited enough about it. Stefan summed it up perfectly. She was manufacturing problems because her divorced friend told her that marriage should feel like a reality TV show. I started working later, partially because of the project deadline, but mostly because home felt like walking through a minefield. She took that as proof I didn't care about our marriage, a classic catch-22. What I didn't realize was that Ashley wasn't just poisoning my wife's mind with relationship advice, she was actively encouraging her to explore new avenues, which set off a chain reaction in our lives. The breaking point came on a Thursday in January. I got home around 7 p.m. which wasn't even that late, and found Ella sitting at our kitchen table. She looked like she had been rehearsing something all day. She had already eaten dinner without me, which was new. We used to wait for each other, even if it meant eating at 8 or 9 p.m. I grabbed some leftover Chinese food from the fridge and sat down. The sweet and sour pork was cold, but I was hungry enough not to care. "I've been thinking about us, about where we're headed," she said. "I think we should take a break." I stopped eating. A break. Not permanent, just a week or two to see how we feel apart. To remember why we fell in love. I knew exactly where this was coming from. Ashley had been feeding her this line for months. How her ex-husband never appreciated her until she left. How absence makes the heart grow fonder. The thing is, I'd heard this exact conversation before. My buddy Jake went through the same thing 2 years ago. His wife wanted a break to find herself. She found herself, all right, in bed with her yoga instructor. It cost him half his 41K and $800 a month in child support. "You want to separate?" I asked. "I want us to pretend we're not married for a little while. See if we miss each other. See if you'll actually fight for us." And there it was, the real agenda. This wasn't about taking space. It was about making me dance for her attention. Making me prove my love through panic and desperation. I looked at my wife of 3 years sitting there with her rehearsed speech and her manipulation tactics from her train wreck friend, and something inside me just went cold. Instead of arguing or begging, I just shrugged. "Okay," I said. She blinked. "Okay, if that's what you want." The disappointment on her face was immediate. She'd expected me to argue, to beg, to make some grand gesture. Instead, I just nodded and went back to eating my leftover Chinese food as if she'd asked me to pick up milk on the way home. That's when I knew our marriage was probably over. Not because of the break request, but because she was disappointed I didn't fight her on it. She wanted drama more than she wanted to fix anything. I texted Stefan immediately after she went to bed. "Ella wants to take a marriage break." His response came back in 30 seconds. "Lol, let me guess. The life coach's idea. What's your move?" "Going to let her have her break. See what happens." Smart. Nothing says I love you like manufactured relationship tests. It turned out Stefan was optimistic about the timeline. We established the rules that night. 2 weeks of acting like we weren't married. She'd stay with Ashley. No contact except for house stuff or emergencies. We'd reassess after 14 days. She packed 2 suitcases the next morning, mostly her work clothes, and enough casual stuff for 2 weeks. I helped her load them into her Honda Civic and watched her drive away. The house felt different immediately. Quieter, but not in a bad way. I could watch ESPN without commentary about toxic masculinity. I could eat cereal for dinner without analyzing the deeper meaning of my nutritional choices. For the first time in months, I actually relaxed in my own living room. That first night, I ordered a large pizza, cracked open a Coke, and watched the entire Predator trilogy without anyone explaining why action movies perpetuate harmful stereotypes. It was glorious. Stefan came over that first weekend with takeout from this Thai place we'd been going to since college. He brought his laptop, and we spent 3 hours setting up a fantasy football league for next season. Something I hadn't had time to think about in months. "So how's the single life treating you?" he asked. "Pretty good, actually. Watched 3 hours of football yesterday without anyone explaining why sports are a symptom of male emotional repression." Stefan nearly choked on his pad thai. "She actually said that among other things?" Apparently, my interest in the Cowboys' playoff run was preventing me from processing my feelings in a healthy way. That weekend, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through our finances with a fine-tooth comb. Joint checking account, savings, both our credit cards, and her student loans I'd been helping pay off. I started documenting every shared asset and debt. We had about $35,000 in joint savings, another $15,000 in a joint checking account. Her student loan balance was still $28,000 for a marketing degree that got her a $45,000 job answering phones and scheduling appointments. I'd been throwing an extra $400 a month at it for the past 2 years, trying to get it paid off faster. I also documented the house improvements we'd made together. She'd contributed about $8,000 toward materials and appliances over 3 years, mostly for the kitchen renovation. I'd done all the labor. I called Dave on Monday morning, not to file anything yet, but to understand my options. He walked me through Texas divorce law, asset division, and what I could expect if things went south. The good news was that the house would remain mine since it was separate property acquired before marriage. The improvements were trickier, but since I had done all the work and contributed most of the money, I would likely keep most of the value. By the end of week 1, I had moved half of our joint savings into a separate account, which was completely legal since it was marital property and I had equal access. I also changed my direct deposit to go into my individual checking account instead of the joint one. That first week, she texted me exactly once. "Hope you're thinking about us." I showed Stefan the text. "What do you think that means?" he asked. "It means the life coach told her. You'd be a sobbing mess by now, begging her to come home. Instead, you're probably the most relaxed you've been in months. Must be confusing for her." By the 10th day, Ashley reached out. She had apparently decided that 2 weeks was more than enough time to make her move. On Tuesday afternoon, I received a text from a number I didn't have saved. "Hey, how are you holding up?" We had never texted one-on-one before, so I kept it short but friendly. "Doing okay. This whole thing is weird." "I know, right?" "Ella's been so stressed. Maybe we could grab coffee and talk about it." Instead of shutting it down immediately, I decided to play along. "Yeah, maybe that would help." We met Thursday evening at a Starbucks near her apartment complex. She showed up dressed like she was going to a club. Tight black dress, full makeup, enough perfume to choke a horse. All for coffee with her friend's husband during a marriage crisis. The dress was cut low enough that I could see everything when she leaned forward to grab her latte, which she did frequently throughout our conversation. "I feel terrible about this whole situation," she said, leaning forward across the small table. "You guys were so good together." Sure we were, I thought. That's why she spent 8 months telling my wife we were boring. Were we though? All the fighting lately, that's just her being confused. She doesn't know what she wants. Ashley reached across and touched my hand. "But I can see how much this is hurting you." Her nails were painted a dark red, probably costing $50 at the salon, the kind of maintenance that screams high maintenance and requires weekly appointments. I let her keep contact for a few seconds before pulling back. "It's been rough. You know, if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here day or night." The conversation continued for an hour. She talked about how I deserved better, how Ella didn't appreciate what she had, and how if she were married to someone like me, things would be different. When we left, she hugged me longer than necessary. This was really nice. "We should do it again soon." I drove home and immediately called Stefan. "Dude, you're not going to believe this." Let me guess. The life coach is already shopping for wedding dresses. She basically threw herself at me. Dress cut down to her navel, touching my hands, talking about how I deserve better. "The woman has the patience of a hungry shark." Of course she does. She probably had this plan before she even suggested the break to Ella. It's like a 3-step program for home wrecking. What do you think? Play dumb. Let her think she's being subtle while you document everything. This is going to get interesting. Over the next few days, Ashley ramped up the contact with daily texts asking how I was doing and suggesting we meet again. She sent photos with captions like, "Thinking of you during this difficult time." The photos were obviously calculated. Her at the gym in yoga pants, her at some restaurant captioned "Eating alone again," and her by the pool at her apartment complex in a bikini. Each one was designed to remind me of what was available if I played my cards right. Stefan was having a field day with her messages. "Look at this one. I hope you know how special you are." What is she, a greeting card? Next, she'll be sending you inspirational quotes about following your heart. I responded just enough to keep her interested, but not enough to cross any lines, making myself seem vulnerable and receptive to her attention. That's when she made her move. On Friday evening, I received a text that read, "I have something to tell you, but I don't know if I should." "What is it? Can we meet?" "This isn't something for text," I replied. We met at the same place. She looked nervous, checking her phone frequently as if she were expecting someone to call. "I feel terrible about this, but I think you deserve to know." She drew in a long, trembling breath, as if she was bracing herself to say something that would shatter me. "Ella's been seeing someone." For a moment, I just stared at her, stunned. The words felt like a slap, leaving me frozen in place. "What?" "His name is Scott. She met him at a work conference last month. I've been watching them together, and it's definitely not innocent." Scott, according to Ashley, is a marketing director from Austin. Mid-30s, divorced, drives a BMW, and works for some tech company. The kind of guy who probably has a LinkedIn photo of himself pointing at a whiteboard. "Are you sure?" I asked. "I saw them at dinner last night. They looked very cozy. And she's been lying about where she goes when she leaves my apartment." Ashley reached across the table and took my hand. "I'm so sorry. I know this hurts, but you needed to know." The message was clear. I had 2 options. Fight for a cheating wife or upgrade to her loyal friend, who would never betray me like this. What a coincidence. I played the role of the devastated husband perfectly. "I can't believe she would do this." "You don't deserve this. You deserve someone who values you," Ashley said. I went home that night and did something I should have done weeks ago. I checked our shared devices and accounts. Ella had left her iPad at home when she moved out, still logged into her iCloud account, with the password saved from when I helped her set it up months ago. Her text messages were synced automatically to all her devices. What I found was 3 weeks of conversations with Scott, starting innocent enough with work industry gossip and complaints about a client who couldn't make up his mind about branding colors. But by the second week, it had turned personal. She complained about our marriage, how she felt unappreciated, and how talking to him reminded her what it felt like to be desired. The recent messages were explicit: plans to meet, discussions about their connection, and photos I definitely didn't want to see. The timestamps showed she'd been texting him during our break, including right after she sent me that message about thinking about us. I screenshotted everything and backed it up to my personal cloud storage. 47 messages over 3 weeks, including a dozen photos and several voice messages I didn't have the stomach to listen to. Then I checked our joint credit card statements online. There were 3 expensive dinners at restaurants across town in the past week, places I'd never heard of, with names like Meridian and the Capitol Grill, a hotel charge from 2 nights ago at the Omni. Downtown, $208 for 1 night, all. On dates when she told Ashley she was going to Target or meeting work friends. The hotel charge was the smoking gun. She'd used our joint visa to pay for a room where she was hooking up with another guy while asking me to wait for her, like some kind of backup plan. I called Stefan. I found it. She's been hooking up with some guy from Austin. No way, he replied. Credit card receipts, hotel charges, and 3 weeks of text messages planning their hookups. It's all here. Damn. So she convinced your wife to take a break so she could cheat, then came running to you with the information like some loyal friend. That's some next-level manipulation right there. What do you think her endgame is? She's betting you'll be so grateful for her loyalty and so hurt by Ella's betrayal that you'll fall right into her arms. Classic rebound strategy. She destroys your marriage, then offers herself as the upgrade. Well, she's about to find out how that works out for her. I called Dave first thing Monday morning. I have evidence of adultery, text messages, hotel charges, restaurant receipts. Good. Bring everything to my office. We'll prepare the papers. Dave reviewed the evidence for an hour, reading through the text messages with a detached professionalism of someone who'd seen this story 1,000 times before. The text messages are damning. The financial records support the timeline, and everything was legally obtained. With this evidence, you're looking at keeping the house as separate property, 60 to 65% of joint assets, and no spousal support obligation. She forfeited her rights when she committed adultery. How long to prepare everything? Give me 3 days. I want this airtight. Those 3 days were probably the strangest of my life. I went to work like nothing was happening, managing the construction project that was finally back on schedule and under budget. I came home to my quiet house, ordered takeout, and watched TV without anyone critiquing my entertainment choices. Meanwhile, I kept up the devastated husband act with Ashley, letting her comfort me about the terrible news she delivered. Listening to her talk about what a terrible friend Ella had been to both of us. I can't believe she would do this to you, Ashley said during another coffee meeting. After everything you've done for her. Some people just don't appreciate what they have. Exactly, I said, playing my part. But maybe this is happening for a reason. Maybe you needed to see who she really was. She reached across the table and took my hand. And maybe I needed to see who you really are, too. Stefan nearly choked when I told him about that conversation later. She actually said that with a straight face. Maybe I needed to see who you really are. What is this? A romantic comedy? Next, she'll be talking about destiny and soulmates. Thursday morning, I served Ella with divorce papers at her office, a professional process server, completely by the book. The papers included selected text message excerpts and financial records showing the affair. Her call came within an hour. What the hell is this? Divorce papers with evidence of adultery. This was supposed to be a temporary break. We were going to work things out. You worked it out with Scott instead. Hope that night at the Omni was worth $280. The silence was deafening. I could practically hear her brain trying to figure out how I'd found out about the hotel. How did you? Your iPad syncs to iCloud. Every text message, every photo, every plan you made with him. I have 3 weeks of evidence. You went through my private messages. She tried a few more angles. The break gave her permission. She was confused. She never meant for it to go this far. None of it mattered. This is insane. It was just texting. The hotel receipt says otherwise. So do the restaurant charges. Another long silence. You can't just end our marriage over this. I'm not ending our marriage. You did that when you started hooking up with Scott, while asking me to wait for you like some kind of backup plan. But her next response really showed her true colors. Instead of apologizing or showing any remorse, she went full nuclear. You know what? I'm glad I did it. Scott actually cares about me. He doesn't just grunt at me when he gets home from work. He takes me places and buys me things and makes me feel special with our joint credit card. Whatever. At least he has a real job, not just some grunt work that gets you all dirty and gross. There it was. 3 years of marriage and she drops the mask completely. Suddenly, my welding career that paid for everything was just grunt work. The same job that bought her car, paid for her vacations, and kept her student loans current. A grunt who makes twice what you make answering phones for. Now Scott's already talking about getting me a better position at his company in Austin, where people actually have ambition. Good luck with that. Hope Scott knows what he's signing up for. He appreciates me. Unlike you, he appreciates having his hotel bills paid by someone else's husband. Real romantic. She hung up on me. Stefan was dying when I told him about the conversation. She actually called welding grunt work, the same welding that's been paying her bills for 3 years. And now she's planning to move to Austin with this guy. That woman has completely lost her mind. The divorce process took 4 months. Ella tried every angle. The break gave her permission. The emotional affair wasn't physical until the hotel receipts proved otherwise, and her mouth slipped. She was confused and manipulated. None of it stuck. Her lawyer was some woman who specialized in women's rights and divorce proceedings. Didn't matter. Evidence is evidence, and Texas law is clear about adultery. But Ella's true nature came out during the proceedings. Instead of showing any remorse or trying to negotiate fairly, she demanded half of everything, including the house. When her lawyer explained that adultery affected property division, she threw a tantrum in the law office that got her temporarily banned from the building. During this time, Ashley kept up her supportive friend act with military precision. Regular texts checking on me, suggestions to meet for coffee, hints about taking our relationship to the next level once the divorce was final. The woman had turned emotional manipulation into performance art. Every text was carefully crafted to seem caring and supportive, while positioning herself as the obvious upgrade. She probably spent more time crafting her messages than most people spend on their resumes. She's like a vulture circling a dead marriage, Stefan observed. Probably has a countdown calendar until you're officially single. I played along just enough to keep her engaged. Met her for coffee twice more. Let her comfort me about the divorce proceedings. Listened to her talk about what a terrible person Ella had been to both of us. The meetings followed the same pattern every time. She'd show up dressed like she was auditioning for a music video, spend an hour talking about how supportive she was being, then make increasingly obvious hints about our future together. I feel so guilty, she said during one meeting. If I hadn't told you about Scott, maybe you could have worked things out. Right. If she hadn't told me about the affair she probably encouraged in the first place. You did the right thing, I said. I needed to know the truth. I just hate seeing you go through this. You deserve so much better. She reached across the table and took my hand. And I want you to know that when you're ready, when all this is behind you, I'll be here in whatever way you need. The message couldn't have been clearer if she had handed me a business card that said, Rebound Relationship Services available 24/7. Stefan nearly fell off his chair when I told him. She actually said, in whatever way you need. What is she, a full-service consolation prize? Does she come with a warranty? The final settlement came through in May. I kept the house, my retirement accounts, and 65% of our joint assets. Ella got her car, her personal belongings, and her student loan debt. No spousal support since she was the one who cheated. The house alone was worth $280,000, minus the $180,000 mortgage balance. With the improvements I'd made, I had about $100,000 in equity that remained mine, plus another $32,000 from our joint savings and investments. She walked away with maybe $18,000 and a Honda Civic with 90,000 miles on it. But even then, she couldn't accept responsibility. During the final settlement meeting, she actually had the nerve to complain that the division was unfair and that I was punishing her for following her heart. Following your heart. I said, you used our joint credit card to pay for hotel rooms with another guy. Scott and I have a real connection, something you'd never understand. I understand it cost us $280 plus dinner at 3 different restaurants. Her lawyer actually had to physically restrain her from lunging across the conference table. The woman had completely lost it. That's what happens when you try to have your cake and eat it too, Stefan said. The day the divorce was finalized, Ashley invited me to celebrate at an upscale restaurant downtown. She'd picked Meridian, one of those spots where the appetizers cost $30 and the waiters treat you like you're interrupting their real careers in theater. She hesitated when I suggested the place, probably wondering why I suddenly wanted to wine and dine, but her ambition overrode her instincts. She showed up in a dress that probably cost more than my car payment. Clearly, she was expecting this to be the night she finally cashed in on her investment in destroying my marriage. "I'm so proud of how you handled everything," she said over appetizers that looked like modern art and tasted like disappointment. "You were so strong through the whole process. I had good support. I was happy to help. You deserve to know the truth." She reached across the table for my hand. "And now we can finally be honest about what's been building between us." I looked at her across the table, perfectly made-up designer dress, predatory smile that she probably practiced in the mirror, and felt nothing but disgust. "Ashley, there's something I need to tell you." "What is it?" "You destroyed my marriage." "What?" "No. I helped you see what Ella really was. You were trying to break us up so you could move in on me. You encouraged her to cheat, then came running to me with the information like some loyal friend." Ashley's face went pale under her foundation. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked genuinely surprised. "That's not— I would never." "You absolutely would. And you did. You manipulated a woman into destroying her marriage because you wanted her husband. I cared about both of you. I was trying to protect you from getting hurt worse. You were protecting your own interests. You saw an opportunity and you took it." I stood up and dropped two $20 bills on the table. "The saddest part is that you actually think I'd want to be with someone capable of what you did. Where are you going?" "We haven't even had dinner. I'm going home alone to my house that I kept because I was smart enough not to trust people like you." "What about us?" I looked down at her, still sitting there in her expensive dress, finally understanding that her elaborate manipulation had gotten her exactly nothing. "There is no us. There never was. You're a toxic person who destroys relationships for your own entertainment. But I helped you. I told you the truth about Ella. You told me the truth about an affair you encouraged her to have. You created the problem, then offered yourself as the solution. That's not help. That's sabotage with a marketing campaign. But I wasn't done yet. I had one more card to play. An hour earlier, I had texted Ella. "Ashley wants to confess something about Scott. Said it's important and you need to hear it." She bid instantly. 10 minutes into dinner, she walked through the restaurant door, eyes already scanning for blood. "What's she doing here?" Ashley's voice went up an octave. "Ladies, you two have a lot to discuss. I'll leave you to it." I stood up and walked toward the exit, but not before calling Stefan. "Dude, you need to get down to Meridian Restaurant right now." "What's happening?" "The life coach is about to get a performance review from two very upset women." I could hear Ella's voice rising behind me. "You set me up with Scott," she shouted. "It wasn't like that," I replied. "I was trying to help you." "Help me?" "You destroyed my marriage so you could steal my husband." I made it to the parking lot just as things got really interesting. Through the restaurant windows, I could see both women standing now gesturing wildly. Other diners were starting to stare, phones coming out to record the show. Stefan pulled up just as the real entertainment began. "Holy crap, they're going at it," he said, getting out of his truck. "This is better than pay-per-view." Ella's voice carried clearly through the glass. "You've been planning this for months. He doesn't even want you. He chose me." "He just rejected you, you delusional psycho." That's when Ashley threw something that looked like her water glass. It shattered against the wall behind Ella, who responded by grabbing Ashley's designer purse and dumping the contents all over the table. "Oh, this is getting good," Stefan said, already dialing 911. "Hello, police. I'd like to report a disturbance at Meridian Restaurant downtown." Through the window, we watched Ashley lunge across the table at Ella, who grabbed her by the hair. They both went down, taking half the table setting with them. Other patrons scrambled away from their table as plates crashed to the floor. "Should we go help?" I asked. "Help? Dude, this is the best entertainment I've had all year. They're both getting exactly what they deserve." The restaurant manager appeared, trying to separate them, but Ashley shoved him away and went after Ella again. Ella responded by throwing what looked like a breadbasket that caught Ashley square in the face. By the time the police arrived 5 minutes later, both women were on the floor, hair disheveled and makeup smeared, still screaming at each other while the restaurant staff tried to restore order. Several other diners were filming with their phones. Both officers exchanged looks, the kind that said they had dealt with this type of situation before. "Ladies, you're both under arrest for disturbing the peace and assault." Stefan and I watched from the parking lot as they cuffed both women and loaded them into separate patrol cars, still yelling at each other through the windows. They spent the night in county holding. Apparently, screaming in public and hurling dinnerware isn't covered by girl drama, as Stefan said, was absolutely beautiful. I received a call the next morning from Ella, calling from the county jail. "This is all your fault," she said immediately. "How exactly is your bar fight with Ashley my fault?" I asked. "You set us up. You planned this." I told her the truth about what she did to our marriage. "What you two did after that was entirely your choice. We both got arrested because of you. You both got arrested because you decided to have a cage match in a public restaurant. That's on you." But she wasn't done being entitled. "You need to bail me out. I'm your wife, ex-wife, as of yesterday. No, I don't need to do anything for you. I don't have anyone else to call." Scott won't answer his phone. "Sounds like a personal problem. You can't just leave me here. Watch me." The call lasted maybe 3 minutes before she hung up on me. Stefan was dying when I told him about it later. That woman has balls, I'll give her that. Both women ended up spending the night in jail and had to pay fines for disturbing the peace. Ella also had to pay for the damaged restaurant property, about $800 for broken dishes, glassware, and cleaning fees. The incident made it onto several social media pages under the title, "Divorce Drama Turns into Restaurant Brawl." Someone had filmed the whole thing on their phone and posted it to TikTok, where the video got 80,000 views in the first week. A comment read, "When keeping it real goes wrong," which received 500 likes. Ella moved back in with her parents in suburban Dallas. Last I heard, she was working at a different company, making about the same money, but now she had a criminal record and a viral video to her name. Scott ended things with her once he realized he'd been used to break up a marriage, only to be publicly humiliated in a viral restaurant fight. The funniest part was that Scott apparently tried to ghost her after the arrest, but she kept showing up at his office in Austin, trying to work things out. His company had to get building security involved. The guy went from thinking he was some kind of player to needing a restraining order. Ashley tried reaching out for weeks after the arrest incident, alternating between apologies and accusations. It started with, "I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me," and escalated to, "You manipulated both of us and destroyed 2 friendships." I finally blocked her number when she showed up at my house uninvited one Saturday morning, demanding to know why I was punishing her for being a good friend. The house feels like home again. The decorative pillows that serve no purpose. The scented candles that were never allowed to be lit. I bought a proper sectional couch, a 65-inch TV for the living room, and transformed the spare bedroom into a home office. Sometimes trash really does take itself out.